this morning. I want us to try to understand as best as we can and as simply as we can what a miracle is. And we're going to do it from the viewpoint of the tiny tick of time. I've mentioned this before, so I'm developing on some things that we have already talked about, but if this is your first time hearing about it, I hope it will be all right. I'm going to put on the board 4 things that I would want a model for a miracle to require. You know, if you're going to make a new airplane, they always make a model first, and they test it, and the wind tunnel and all this. You just want to make, the model helps you understand what's going on. Now, if you ask someone on the street what a miracle is, they'll probably say something like, well, it's when God brings you a solution to your problem. I mean, something like that. If it's a miracle, it's got to come from God. You don't go to Walgreens to get the miracle. You know, where's your miracle aisle? You pray. You probably ask for a miracle. Okay. So, so the first requirement that you want the miracle to have is something like it'll solve in some way or other, maybe not the way you like, solve your problem. Now, whatever your problem is, we could restrict that and say, oh, only spiritual problems are all. But our only physical ones are only chemical ones. But let's just say any problem. That's more the gist of the course. It doesn't tend to restrict things. Now, if it's going to solve any problem, there might be, this could most often, or very often, be done merely at the mental level. You know, I'm looking at something wrong, I get a better way to look at it, the problem solved. Sometimes it may require a physical form to do a little something different than it is doing. So this will include, I would like for it to be able to include physical effects if necessary. They're not often will not be necessary. And these physical effects, I would like for it to be immediate. Immediately. So in the simple-minded way, you'd say, one new car, expect it now, I'm timing you 10 seconds, okay, got it, good. That was great. If you have to wait an hour, I wouldn't call it a miracle, it's too long. But I'm talking about something immediate. I mean, that historically, that's what people thought of miracle. The general wants to win the war. He's going to fight a battle. He doesn't want to win it next year. He's about to send the soldiers down in 10 minutes, streaming down the hill. He wants to win it right now. Or he wants the bridge to collapse right now, you know. So there are some things that might be needed right away. I'm going to tell you an example of that. That Joel Osteen, I think that's where it came from. And this was about his father. His father was a preacher and was driving to some meeting or other with several other pastors, and they had a flat. So they got out and said, well, we'll fix the flat. Tools in the trunk. Put the key in, open the trunk, it won't open. It's jammed or something. It won't open. So okay, so what are you going to do? Well, flag down a car. Well, this is out west someplace where you don't, cars are few and far between. There just wasn't any cars coming. Surely they'll stop for 4 pastors. Well, if you had a sign, you go, we're 4 pastors, that might help. But it doesn't matter, there wasn't any cars coming anyhow. And after an hour of waiting, somebody said, well, you know, we haven't prayed and asked for a miracle. He said, well, that's right. We're four pastors. We don't do that. They did that. As soon as they got through, that little thing went click. This is supposed to be a true story. I realize it's second-hand, third-hand. I mean, I realize but that's what I recall about it. It would be nice if that was necessary. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that studies the course is going to agree with this. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that would be nice on the case if necessary. You don't want to do it if it's not necessary because the mind is the real problem. Physical effects only kind of affect it indirectly usually, but they can have their place. Okay, another one, would be this. We're going to recognize that God doesn't make forms, So any form you see, the physical form in particular, the Son of God must have made them. We only got the God and the Son of God, and it wasn't God eliminated, so but the Son of God must have done it. And when you say he made physical forms, you also mean that he made the physical laws that govern the forms. I mean, they go together. I'm talking about physics. I'm talking about science, chemistry. I mean, there's specific laws. You can go to school and learn what they are. They come from the Son of God. God does not make that stuff. That's the teaching of the Course, at any rate. Again, other religions might look at this differently, but that's the way the Course looks at it. Now, if you will notice in reading in the Course, why God doesn't give us more help in the way we would like to receive it, it will be our Jesus or the Holy Spirit. They'll say, well, I can't come between your producing that effect by some thought and then the effect occurring. If I interfere, and like Jesus says in the Course, I cannot remove your fear from you. That's because your mind has produced it. If I took away the effect, then I'd be messing with the law of cause and effect, and you'd never learn anything. You know, if we all, parents know that. There are consequences. If you don't ever let the kids suffer the consequences, they come out and immediately go to jail. That's where they're going to end up. They'll end it. The real world out there thinks there are consequences, and you can't just run every stoplight you see. So we're going to go to jail. So the parents try to say, well, there are consequences. You know. Okay. There are these effects. And now think about this. If the Son of God, that means the whole sonship, by the way. When I say made the physical world, I don't mean you did it. I'm sorry, you just ain't got what it takes. But all of us together, you know, the Course says that only the whole sonship can create like the Father. Pull out one mind, it's just not big enough. But you stick them all together, billions of us, and we operate, and we cooperate in a unified direction, we're very potent. Now, when we talk about form, we're not talking about creating, but I figure that works for making as well, making form. So I'm thinking now is that the whole sonship made physical laws. Now, if that's true, God is not going to undercut them. You will see, just like He won't take away your fear because there's a cause and effect, and you got to learn. Well, besides, He just doesn't. He doesn't want to violate what we've made. Even if He doesn't, he's aware of it. Doesn't make any difference. He's just not. You make something, He's not going to come and trash it. Oh, you made that? I don't like that. He's not going to do that. He's going to say, well, it's nothing. But I got to wait for you to come to the realization that it's nothing. See, God's not aggressive in the sense of yanking things away. You made that. Give me that. I'm throwing that away. Parents do that. God doesn't do that. So I'm going to say that another idea then is that the miracle should not violate the laws of science, you know, physical laws, however you want to say that, because the Son of God made them. That otherwise, if we could release this, we could have just miracles all over the place. Bruno wants a car, boom, it's on it. There it is. It's broke, boom, it's fixed. You know, Milford wants another car, he's got it. You know, our John Deere tractor, here's 4 of them. You know, whatever. We would have a ball. Actually, we'd be in terrible trouble, really terrible trouble. But that's okay. Now, this says that God's just not going to come in and willy-nilly give you all these little things you might want. First, He loves you, and He knows that's not good for you, but He doesn't want to undercut the laws that the Son of God has made. Okay. Now, I'm going to put another one. Now I'm going to start. This is just some ideas. They're not, they don't really come from quotes in the Course particularly. Well, this is an idea of the Course that God doesn't interfere or intrude with the things we make, even when they're foolish or something. He doesn't. So that way, this is just general print. This is just asking the man on the street almost. This is not a Course idea. No, I wouldn't. I don't think I've ever seen that in the Course. Although the Course does say that you can rely on the Holy Spirit or God for solving all your problems. He will answer your every need. You know, there are verses like that. Okay, now this next one is just a quote from the Course. And there's this quote, I may have read it last week. It's telling you what a miracle is. And it says, it transcends all laws of time and space, of size and magnitude. It violates all of them. Sounds like a big carnival show. Okay, so I'm going to include that. It violates all laws of science when it occurs. Not all the time, of course. This is when you ask for a miracle. Well, I said, we got a problem here. Some things kind of conflicting, but we'll work with that in a minute. Now, the fourth one is another quote from the Course, and it says, the miracle takes you into a realm of celestial order. This is a miracle principle. I don't remember which one, but it's one of those miracle principles right in the front of the book. Now, I want a mechanical model that will fit all that. Yeah, good luck. Particularly since some of them contradict each other, you know. Now, when things contradict each other, what you do is you make your model a little more complicated. Well, we're going to have at least 2 rooms. We don't have rooms in the head. We're going to, and here in our model, we're going to have at least 2 rooms, and one of these things will be true in one room, but not in the other. That's how you're going to get around that. Because here we're saying that you don't violate them, and here you do. So we've got to have at least 2 rooms. This room they're violated, this room they're not. Okay, and that's what I mean by that. I don't mean in any room in all room of your model, at least in some room in your model. And what does the model look like? It looks like I'm going to draw what I call a schematic diagram. This is the upper level, UL, upper level. And in this one you get HS movies. This is in a movie theater. And the lower level, you get the ego movies. I would want to give some measure of appreciation or whatever to Kenneth Wapnick, because he wrote this book, Vast Illusion of Time. I've not read it, but I've skimmed it. And you get the sense that you get a little more appreciation. Well, first he makes it very clear that when they say the tiny tick of time, he's talking about time. He's talking about he means time as it was. It's gone. That's what he means by that. Now, I don't go in the same direction he does because I haven't read the book. I don't know what direction he's going in. But no matter, I just wanted to express appreciation for that, because you don't always hear that in books about the Course in Miracles. He's got that treatment of a tiny tick of time. This is the most unique aspect of the Course in Miracles that I'm aware of, by the way, by far. I could be wrong. There could be gobs of religions that teach that very same thing. Well, I just never heard of them. You know, if so, clue me in. You know, whatever. So what we're going to say here is that this upper level is right above that one, but I can't draw that easily. And so like we said, and so you're going to be switching back and forth. For sometimes we listen to the ego, sometimes we listen to the Holy Spirit. If you're watching, here's the screen up here. Here's the screen here. You're sitting in some chair down here, looking at. This is like a view from above, looking at one of the other movies. If you're watching a Holy Spirit movie, and you lose it, you know, you start listening to the ego again, that means the floor collapses and you just fall right back and listen because it's right under you. It's just automatic. You don't have to, it's not a big deal. I mean, it happens automatically. Boom. As soon as you listen to the ego, well, you're in the ego movie. Okay, here's a situation here. On this screen, all these events, whether in this movie or this one, obey the laws of science. Now, when I say you're sitting in this movie, I mean you got a chair, wires are plugged into you, so that whatever happens on the screen, if a figure on the screen gets hit, you hurt. You know, so that you get it. Oh, that's me. particularly if you've lost your memory of whatever you might otherwise you think you are. And then we'll say that has occurred. So you're all plugged into this, and if you're watching an ego movie, the laws of science also make that event, then this one, then they all follow one from the other. You pick up the ball, you throw the ball moves. You know, they follow. The ball doesn't move, and then you pick it up. I mean, there's an order here, and it all makes sense, and everything, you know, fits together according to the usual way that life progresses. Now, why in the world, when you're in here, think in terms of cause and effect, why in the world, when you're sitting here watching this little movie, maybe it's going pretty good, maybe it's going sour, I don't know, but why in the world would you ever think to leave? The ego's not going to tell you to leave. You're right where he wants you, or it wants you, actually. It doesn't want you to leave. Last thing in the world. These events, do they tell you to leave? Well, not really. However, if it goes too sour, they do. They work as a catalyst, and you say, ooh, there's got to be something better. You know, the Course talks about that when tolerance for pain being limited. And yes, anyway, when that pain gets too high, you start saying, something must be better. There comes a time, and this is a miraculous thing actually, when you say, I want something different. And you're looking above rather than across the street to the doctor. This is really, really important. People can go through their whole lives not believing that there's anything other than this physical box that we're in. It is a step for many people, a big step to say there's something different. This is a big deal to say, I think there's help from above, because you feel like you're going to be made a fool of. You run down and tell your colleagues, I think there's help from above. And somebody says, well, what help is that? And hits you in the face. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just, call the doctor. You broke my jaw. Or whatever, you know. It is a bit of a risk, isn't it? To say, I'm going to believe help can come from above. Well, it's hell, in my opinion, not to believe that. So let's just take the risk. Why not? But suit yourself on that. But for some people, that is a big turning point in their life. Now, I certainly experienced this. There were times in my life where I felt that no effect from above it could possibly enter here. Particularly since I'm a scientist, and in science you only deal with what goes on here. To hell with above it, to hell with below it. And no such thing, it's just here. See? Well, the Course and all spiritual paths are going to say there's a lot other than this. In fact, this is Courses will say this is illusion. The whole thing's illusion. At any rate, something special happens. Let's just call it a miracle foreright, or the first touch of the miracle, if you wish. And you say, I want something different. There's a door here. You go out, and there's the stairwell. And now, what I'm going to call this right here is, I'm going to call it the realm of celestial order. The miracle, which begins here, capital M begins, takes you into, that's what one of those quotes said, takes you, this is a miracle principle. You can look it up. I don't remember the number. Well, let's just draw a realm of celestial order. It's the stairwell. It takes you up. Now, celestial order means it doesn't give a hoot about physical laws. It's beyond physical laws. It is beyond all physical laws. It therefore violates all of them. Why didn't this mess you up? Because you're not on a movie screen. It's not a part of your life. This is not something you see with your eyes. You're probably not even aware of it. But I feel the Course is saying this, that when you ask for a miracle, and again, when I say ask for a miracle, it can't be like, well, in case there's a God out there, I think I'd like a jelly bean over there. I want a miracle of jelly bean. Forget that. You haven't asked anybody. I mean, genuinely, you're crying for help. Even if you're not crying for help, you genuinely believe a source of help is available. You don't have to cry necessarily. And so you ask for it. But if it's your first time, you would probably be crying. Is there? Oh, I want to believe. I'm asking for a miracle. It's a big step. You take that step, and what this book says is that that's the start of a miracle. Well, at least that's the way I'm interpreting it. I'm not sure that it's that clear in there. But it will take you into the realm of celestial order, and you're going up these stairs, and physical laws mean nothing in there. Okay. Now, well, when you get to the top, you come into here. Oh, and of course that's going to mean that now you're going to see things with right-mindedness instead of wrong-mindedness, because that's the difference between these two levels, if you like. And so you sit down and the same events are happening, but they look different to you now because you're listening to the Holy Spirit. The ego can't talk up here. The ego talks down there. Now, by the way, where do these movies come from? That's the Course says that they'll come from. The Course doesn't use the word movies. Kenneth Wapnick uses the word video, but it suits me better to use the word movie. But what it says is that it means the ego you have a memory of what happened in the tiny tick of time, and it calls the tiny tick of time the time of terror. Things are going bad, and well, it's just like the world. The world has like opposite bad things going on. And so what's being shown here is an instant of terror. That tiny tick of time was originally an instant of terror, but we wanted to interfere with the workings of heaven, and we wanted to take our version of time and replace it, eternity, with our time, and make the separation last forever. And God basically said no. He said, the Holy Spirit, go correct those people. That doesn't work. And the Course says that for every mistake the ego made, the Holy Spirit came and made a correction. So here you just screamed at the guy who wouldn't do what you wanted him to do and threw a rock at him. That's the ego deal. And the correction was, thank him, tell him he has a good day, and go do it yourself, or whatever. Anyway, there's a correction for every single mistake that the ego made in that tiny tick of time. Now, a tiny tick of time means it's tiny if you're in heaven to look at it. If you're inside that time, it can be any length. It doesn't matter. You may experience it as billions of years. It just doesn't matter. By the way, the tiny tick of time occurred in heaven. I don't know whether you're aware of that. The mad idea was in heaven. Remember, a tiny mad idea crept into eternity. It's interesting, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It didn't stand outside the door of eternity and knock, can you please let me in? It had crawled under the door somehow, like a bug, and gotten in. Well, anyway. So, these movies, this movie right here that you're watching is a replay of the time of terror. It's the ego's memory of all those things, because when time, by the way, the reason time ended is eventually the ego got tired of putting up another possibility for the Holy Spirit to correct. After he's made 10 trillion billion corrections, you say, to hell with it. I'm not doing this anymore. I obviously can't win. And so time was over then, because the ego gave up. God doesn't need time. Holy Spirit doesn't need time. So, it was gone. But the ego, and you'd think that the ego would say, oh, you've shown me to be incorrect in about 10 trillion cases. I think I'll just give up now and go home, and you can return to heaven. That's not what happened. You threw a temper tantrum, and you say, I want it that way. And so you just blocked off everything and started watching these movies. Okay. And so every bad thing that happens is a replay then of that instant of terror in some sense or other. Maybe it's an exact replay. I don't know all those details. But I know that it does say this is a time of terror. It has already happened. Okay, well, when you have your miracle, you say, I've had enough of this. I want something better. Well, you go into the realm of celestial order, and you come into here, and you start seeing things better. Now, when you see things, when you start thinking better, you start acting differently. Right? If I'm thinking peacefully, I'm going to act different than I was when I was down here, and there I was acting in an angry way. I was guilty and projecting my guilt, fussing at people, whatever. You start acting differently. That means the Holy Spirit, because you're watching the Holy Spirit's correction, that you act differently. Holy Spirit's correction is different from the problem it's correcting, needless to say. You start seeing a situation where you smiled and said, oh, no problem, I'll put the gas in my car. You don't need to do it anyhow. Whatever the situation was. Now, you can't have this movie different from this movie for very long. Maybe a nanosecond or two. Because you're liable to revert back to the ego. There's always the temptation to go to the ego again. As soon as you do, this will fall back down. You go into here. You can't. And if you were seeing Suppose that guy that didn't do what you say in this movie, you shot him, pulled out a pistol and shot him. Well, in this, as you replay, just before you do that, you get out of there. You go up here, see it differently, and you don't shoot him, you wave at him, okay? And then you fall back into here. The question is he shot or not? You can't have it both ways. You know, well, yeah, you could assume you could, but we don't assume that. I mean, that's not what we experience. I experience my house on Stonebrook Drive, not on Lovell Road, every single day, not just some of the time. And so, what we have a problem here. I mean, if that actually happened in your life, those things just suddenly shifted incoherently like that, we couldn't function. Well, and we know that doesn't occur. Life is sort of flowing on along. And Oasis was here last week. I come up, I expect it to be here this week. You know, okay. How are we going to solve this? Now, I can only think of one way. This is not in the course. We need Jesus or somebody to go back in there and change that tiny tick. Now, you may say, well, how can you do that? Well, and why do you pick Jesus? Because the course says Jesus is in charge of time and space. If he's in charge of time and space, I figure he can do that. It also said, now, by the way, to go backwards in time, you need at least 2 dimensions of time. One for you to stand on and the other for the stuff to roll by. You don't want to roll with it. It's just the way it has. And the Course mentions all the dimensions. There's a phrase. The miracle works in all dimensions of time. It doesn't develop it, just throws it out there, you know. Okay, fine. So I am asserting, it's too strong a word. I am suggesting, yeah, forget the assert. I'm suggesting that perhaps Jesus can go backwards in time. To me, it doesn't seem a huge stretch. The Course tells us that linear time we experience is an anomaly anyhow. It's unnatural. The ego likes it, you see. So all Jesus got to do is go back in time to the tiny tick of time. Here's the ego's mistake. Now, when that originally happened, the mistake was made, a correction was offered, and we said, no, I don't want the correction. I'm enjoying the mistake, even though it's kind of dark and heavy. If we'd accepted them all immediately, it'd be all over. We didn't accept them. The Course says that. It says you can accept it when you get ready. You understood the solution, you just didn't like it, so you didn't accept it. So that problem can't be removed because you've made it and put your arms around and hold on to it. God will not take it away from you. But here comes Jesus from the future saying he's changed his mind. Acceptance. I've got the acceptance slip here. Just stick that on top of not acceptance. As soon as you do, that event disappears. Boom. Son's accepted. The ego can't do anything about that. You've just undone a segment, or Jesus has, of that original tiny instant. Boom, gone. Well, guess what? He's doing that all the time. Every time anybody asks for a miracle, there got to be segments of that original thing falling off they're being undone. That means they never were. In our way we would look at it, it's the same as if it was never done there. Now, you're not undoing the whole tiny tick of time. You're only undoing the instant of terror part. You know, the other part are the Holy Spirit's corrections that were rejected, but now we're accepting them one by one, piece by piece, as we review them, because the miracle allows us to do that. And so, we've already got this, we've already concluded that was there. No, well, yeah, we included that. I'll come to this in a minute. But what this is saying to me, this is why a miracle is so incredibly important. Solving your problem is probably just an afterthought, almost. That's not the real thing that's happening. Yeah, you're thankful for it. I kept my job, whatever. Great. But from the larger standpoint, what's great is there's another segment of that tiny tick of time, that instant of terror that is now gone. It's been undone. Not just pushed into a corner. Not just stored over here instead of over there. Shredded. If it were on a piece of paper, it would be shredded and then burned. It doesn't exist anymore. And so you want to say this miracle is the start of the undoing of the tiny ticket, the bad part of the tiny ticket of time. Now, when it's all undone, what will be left? The Holy Spirit's corrections. That's seeing the world through the eyes of complete forgiveness, because everything's forgiven now. We have a name for it. We call it the real world. In case you've forgotten, that's what the Course calls a real world. It is the world seen through eyes of complete forgiveness. No judgment of any sort. Well, okay, now, what about this one here? This is the one we just grabbed from ordinary people's viewpoints anyhow. Can we make any sense out of that? How can it affect a physical event? Because I'm just saying that in this screen, on these screens, the laws of science are maintained. They're not violated. God's not going to do that. Now, in the celestial order, there are no physical laws. Whoever wants there. So how are we going to get a physical effect? It's like that back, the trunk door open. That's a physical effect, and it's immediate. It really gets your attention, of course. And so it has value. It gets your attention. You know, we don't pay a lot of attention but lots of times. Here's just a suggestion that I have for that. In scientific laws, you see there's a law here that will tell you where the baseball is going to go if you throw it. And it has to do with the forces that act on it. The air resistance and gravity and anything. And if a little bird collides with it, then that force too. Whatever force is there determine where it's going to go, almost, but not completely. It also determines it's the initial conditions. Call them IC. In other words, it matters which direction you threw it. Of course. No law determines that. That's just your decision. I'm going to throw the ball that way. Or I'm going to, so it goes. But once it leaves your hand and you've thrown it, then the laws take over. But the laws of science do not tell you what to choose. You have free will. You choose to throw it this way, you throw it that way, whatever. I'm saying, and I always talk about the laws of science, that does not include the initial conditions. The initial conditions are determined by your decision. There's no law of science that I'm aware of, or anybody, I don't think, that will determine what decision you make. You have free will. See? So this is outside. Okay, that means that when you come up here with a certain situation, I said like you pulled up to a gas station, and guys used to put gas in cars in case that metaphor didn't sink in with you. It really did. A few of us remember that.
They still do in Oregon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Well, they don't do it here.
Well,
So
it's because it's a program because they're usually getting aid from someplace else. So, yeah.
well, in my example, that the guy in the car was expecting someone from Oregon to come down and do that.
I was years ago, I worked on weekends in a gas station. And you not only check the air in their tires, you ask them, check the oil level, and while the gas is being put in.
Right. So you did
Yeah.
several different things. Maybe the windshield wipers if it had been raining or something.
Yeah, or add water to the windshield.
Right. Those guys are gone.
Yeah.
They're sitting here in this room, but
Yeah, that's right.
they're not out there working at the gas station. Let's put this that
Well, I
way.
got $4 an hour. That was big money back
Back
then.
then, that sounds big, yeah. Okay, we're going to use this to do that. So what I'm saying is when you get your miracle, you go up here and you're about to enter, and Jesus realizes that trunk door it would really be nice if it pop open. And being as they're all pastors, it will not upset them. They will not think it's a paranormal ghost situation that did it. They'll think it's a miracle. It's sound like there's an opportunity there. But how can Jesus do that? He can't violate the laws of science. He can change the initial conditions of that situation. Something's stuck in there. Somebody pushed a little too hard. He can make it start, didn't push so hard. He changes the initial condition. He just makes it up. Time's the sleight of, the Course says time's the sleight of hand anyhow. It's a card trick. We're just being all food all the time. But we can't really help it. We're creatures of time, and that's going to continue. But he could change those initial conditions and cause that trunk to pop up. Now he's not going to change them very often or very dramatically because we'd get overwhelmed with the spectacle of it, and start focusing on that. So I, in my personal opinion, I think it's a little few and far between, but it's not impossible. This model does not rule it out. That's the point. Start out with a model with 4 requirements. This model satisfies, as far as I can tell, all those requirements if you allow Jesus to. He said, I would like to go back in time and change that. So you've got to say, yeah, it's fine. Take my acceptance of the Holy Spirit's correction with you, because we are the want that undone. Of course, he already knows that. And so he takes it back there. He's got it on a piece of paper, and it's registered, you know, with, you know, like when you, what do you do with paper, that stamp, that clerk, somebody stamps it. Notary, yeah, this is notarized.
Notary.
This is a notarized thing. Joe said he's willing to accept your solution now, so okay, got it. You go back there, that's done. So I'm saying that when a miracle happens, all kinds of magical, magical in quotes, but the magic's not really real, seemingly magical things are occurring you're not aware of. That's why the Course wants you to use miracles all the time. It's not really trying to get you to places where somebody will come out and put gas in your car. Now, although Oregon people come and do that for you, it doesn't care about that. It does care about undoing what happened in that instant of terror, in that tiny tick of time. And that instant of terror is the thing that causes all the problems in everybody's life. Well, they can't help it. It wasn't an instant of terror. They're glued to their seats here, plugged into that, and just watching it. And I said, to me, the real miracle is the fact that somehow or other, the thought got into your mind, there might be something better. You know, that's when it starts. That's when it starts. Now, if this is true, what do you have to worry about? If you don't like it, grab a miracle. Understand that it's a real thing, that you will be taken out into a celestial or realm of celestial order. If you need something like that, Jesus will have it ready. You come in here and you will begin seeing it differently. And what you were previously looking at is going to be dissolved until it's all gone. See, time is already over, but the acceptance of the corrections needs a fake time to run on, and that's what we've got, a dream time, call it dream time, to run on, and it'll last until you don't need it anymore. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
That was great.
Great.
Okay, let's join in a circle. We'll have a closing thought. Thank you all for coming today.
Well, some of us tardy though today.
Well, we have a demerit board.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let's close with the title of Workbook Lesson 230. Now, will I seek and find